We always hear about investing in terms of charts and returns, right? But what if the real story, the real power of investing, isn't in some spreadsheet? What if it's in the lives of everyday people who used a really simple plan to completely rewrite their future? Well, today, we're going to dive into systematic investment plans, or SIPs, not through complicated theories, but through the real-life journeys of people who are probably a lot like you.
So let me ask you something. What if achieving your biggest, wildest dreams wasn't about some lucky break or winning the lottery? What if it was about a simple, steady plan you could literally start today? That's the idea we're going to unpack.
Because this is about so much more than just the money. We're looking at the human side of things, the discipline, the patience, and honestly, the incredible feeling of accomplishment that comes from sticking to a simple, long-term plan.
Okay, let's tackle this head-on, because it's a huge mental block for so many of us. There's this myth that you need a pile of cash to even think about building wealth, but the real truth is that the most amazing success stories almost always start with consistency, not a giant pot of gold.
And that brings us to the heart of it all, the unbelievable power of just taking small, totally manageable steps again and again. This is the bedrock of how an SIP works. So what in the world is a systematic investment plan? Look, it's not complicated. It's just a promise you make to yourself to invest a set amount of money on a regular schedule, usually every month. That's it. You're not trying to be a genius and time the market, you're just building a simple, powerful habit. And that, right there, is the secret sauce. The magic isn't how much you start with. It's the discipline of just showing up month after month, no matter what. In fact, that consistency has this kind of hidden superpower. When the market dips, your fixed amount buys more units. When it's high, it buys fewer. Over years, that simple act smooths things out and builds some serious momentum.
Now, theory is one thing, but let's see how this all plays out in the real world. We're about to meet 3 different people who took this one simple principle and used it to achieve some truly extraordinary, life-changing goals.
First up, let's meet Ramesh. He's a young father from Pune. When his daughter was born, he wasn't earning a huge salary or anything, but he had this massive dream. He wanted to fund her education no matter what, without compromises. And get this, he started with a small SIP of just 2,000 rupees a month. At the time, even that felt like a bit of a stretch. He even had friends telling him, man, that's not enough to make a real difference. But he didn't listen. He just stuck with it. And after 15 years of that quiet, consistent investing, that too little monthly amount had grown into a fund big enough to pay for his daughter's higher education abroad. He didn't just save money, he gave her a future without the crushing weight of student loans. All right, next, let's talk about Priya and Sanjay, a couple both working in Delhi. Their big dream was to own their own home. But man, the idea of saving up a massive lump sum for a down payment, it just felt impossible. So they took a different approach. They started an SIP with one clear goal, putting in 10,000 rupees every single month. And even when life happened, unexpected bills, school fees, they made that SIP a priority. They never, ever broke the chain. And 12 years later, they had their down payment. They said it perfectly. It wasn't some lucky break or a big inheritance that got them there. It was just the raw power of being consistent. Imagine that feeling. The pride they felt wasn't just about owning a home. It was knowing they built that security themselves through pure discipline. And our last story is about Anil. He was an IT professional, but his dream was a little different. It wasn't about a thing, it was about time. He didn't want to be chained to a desk until he was 60. He wanted to live life on his own terms, and he wanted to do it early. So Anil played the long game. He started investing in SIPs from his very first paycheck, and for over 20 years, he just stayed the course. Every time he got a raise, he'd bump up his SIP amount. And the result? By the time he was 45, he had built a nest egg big enough to just stop. He retired and started pursuing his passions. He literally bought himself time. So yeah, these financial results are absolutely incredible. But the real power of this process, the stuff that you can't see on a bank statement, that's what we're going to talk about next, the psychological rewards. And these benefits are huge. Think about it. You feel so much less stress because you know you have a plan in motion. You start to feel this real confidence, a sense of control over your own life. And then you get the freedom to make choices based on what you want to do, not just what you have to do. But maybe the biggest thing is you develop this long-term perspective. You learn to just ignore all the short-term noise and focus on the goal.
Okay, so after hearing about Ramesh, Priya, and Anil, you might be feeling a little inspired. And the best part is, your own story, your own journey can start right now. And it's way, way simpler than you probably think.
It really just boils down to 4 simple steps. First, figure out your why. What's your goal? Second, start small. Seriously. Even 500 rupees is a fantastic start. You can always increase it later. Third, pick a reliable, regulated platform. Think established banks or mutual fund companies. And finally, the most important step of all, stay consistent. Remember that automatic benefit we talked about? It only works if you stick with it, especially when the markets get a little scary.
You see, when you put all this into motion, you realize that an SIP isn't just one action. It creates this powerful ripple effect that touches every part of your future.
At the end of the day, an SIP is so much more than just an investment. It's a promise. It's this tangible commitment that you make every single month to your family, to your dreams, and maybe most importantly, to the person you're going to be in the future.
And really, that's what we want to leave you with. This isn't just about financial planning, it's about life planning. So just take a second and ask yourself, what incredible story do you want your SIP to write for you?